All this talk about AI, it feels so new, so cutting edge, right? But what if I told you that the big debate we're having right now isn't new at all? I mean, the core of it, what does it even mean to know something, to be intelligent? That's a conversation that's literally been going on for over 2,000 years. So, yeah, let's dive into that. So, at the heart of this whole thing, you've got two totally different ways of looking at the world. On one hand, you have the rational world. This is the neat and tidy stuff: logic, definitions, universal rules. If this, then that. Very clean, very clear. But then you've got the other side, the intuitive world. And this one's, well, it's messy. It's all about patterns, context, and stuff you just know from experience. It's fuzzy and it's complicated. Now, for the last, 2,000 years or so, one of these has totally dominated our culture. Guess which one? Now, for the last, 2,000 years or so, one of these has totally dominated our culture. Guess which one? Yep, the rational, rule-based one. It's been king. It's the foundation for so much of how we think. So here's the big question, the one that changes everything. What happens when our most powerful, most exciting new technology, AI, suddenly shows up and it doesn't play by those rules? What happens when it brings that other intuitive way of knowing roaring back to life? All right, so to really get why this is such a big deal, we've got to take a step back and see just how deep this rule-based thinking goes. Let's look at the world that rules built. And that idea has a name, of course: rationalism. It's this core belief that to truly know something, you have to be able to nail it down, write it out, define it, prove it with rules. It's that little voice in your head that says, okay, let's not get emotional, let's just be logical about this. And trust me, this way of thinking is everywhere. It's shaped modern science, it's how we build computers, it's just how we've been taught to think. And you can literally draw a straight line through history for this. It all kicks off back in ancient Greece with Socrates. The guy who was always bugging people for clear, explicit definitions. For him, if you couldn't define it, you didn't really know it. Fast forward to the Enlightenment, and this idea just explodes. You get guys like Newton and Galileo using math to write down the universal laws of the universe. And then, believe it or not, this exact same logic is what fueled the very first attempts to build AI back in the 1950s. They called it symbolic AI. And let's be super clear here. This rational approach worked. I mean, it worked spectacularly. We're talking vaccines, computers, rockets, heck, pretty much everything in your house that you plug into a wall. Rationalism gave us this incredible power to predict and control the physical world. It totally changed the game for humanity. But there was a catch. There's always a catch, right? When we tried to take this beautiful rule-based system and apply it to the really messy parts of life, things like human psychology or the economy or just talking to another person, it started to fall apart. Okay, this is a perfect way to see the problem in action. Just imagine trying to build a spam filter using only if this, then that rules. Super simple, right? Step 1, if an email says lottery, boom, it's spam. Easy. But then the spammers get smart. So you add an exception. Okay, but emails about an emergency are important. Then the spammers start using that. So you add another rule, only if emergency is from a coworker. But what even is a coworker? And what about that one annoying coworker who spams everyone? See? The exceptions just keep multiplying until the list is basically infinite. The whole thing just shatters. It's way too brittle. And honestly, that's exactly what happened with that early symbolic AI project. This grand idea of writing down the entire world in clean definitions and rules. It just didn't work. As Dan Shipper put it, it's too brittle, it's too hard. It's just too big of a project. It just failed. But of course, the story doesn't end there. That failure just cleared the stage for a totally different kind of player, what we can call the intuitive machine. So while the rule-based approach was hitting a dead end, there was this other idea, one that had been bubbling under the surface for a long time. And its inspiration wasn't logic or math. It was biology. It was inspired by the messy, tangled, amazing thing that is the human brain. And this gave us the neural network. Now, here's the key difference. You don't tell a neural network a cat has pointy ears and whiskers. No. You just show it thousands and thousands of pictures of cats. It never learns an explicit rule for what a cat is. Instead, it just learns to recognize the pattern of a cat, which, when you think about it, is a lot like how our own intuition works, right? We learn from experience, not from a rule book. So, when you hear people talking about a large language model, an LLM, this is what they mean. It's basically just a giant neural network that's been fed a massive diet of text and language from the internet. And all it's really doing is finding these incredibly complex, hidden patterns in language, so it can make a really good guess about what word should come next. That's the whole magic trick. Okay, so now we have this powerful new tool that thinks in this intuitive pattern-matching way. So what? What does that actually mean for us? Well, think about it like this. Our biggest, most impressive technology always becomes the main metaphor for how we think about our own minds. For a long time, in the 20th century, that metaphor was the computer. We wanted to be computers, logical, rational, almost machine-like. It was a good thing to be unemotional. But now that metaphor is changing. The new kid on the block is the LLM. And suddenly, we have a machine that helps us appreciate all the squishy, fuzzy, intuitive parts of our own brains, the parts that the old computer metaphor kind of pushed aside. And this is such a key point. A lot of people worry this tech is somehow replacing our humanity. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's a mirror. It's holding up a reflection of the intuitive side of ourselves and letting us see it more clearly. It's helping us remember the value of gut feelings and pattern recognition, the very stuff our culture has been telling us to ignore for centuries. And this change shows up in our work, too. I love this metaphor, the sculptor versus the gardener. The old way of working, the rational way, was like being a sculptor. You have total control. Every single chip in that block of marble happens because you decided to put it there. But working with these new AI tools, it's much more like being a gardener. You can't force a plant to grow. Your job is to create the right conditions, the best soil, the right amount of sun and water, and then you guide this thing as it grows into something amazing. So if we're all becoming gardeners instead of sculptors, well, that means we need a completely different set of skills, and it's creating a whole new kind of economy. Let's call it the allocation economy. See, in the old knowledge economy, your value was all about what specialized facts you had stored in your brain. But in this new world, your value isn't about what you know, but how well you can direct and manage these incredibly powerful, intelligent resources, like AI models, to achieve a goal. And if you want to know what skills matter now, just think about what makes a great manager. It's things like, can you articulate a clear vision? Do you know what you want to create? Can you break a huge project down into manageable little pieces? Do you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your tools, in this case, the AI? And maybe most importantly, can you develop an intuition for when to trust it and when you absolutely need to double-check its work? And boom, just like that, we're right back where we started, all the way back in ancient Greece. Because this isn't a new debate at all. It's the same argument Socrates, the rationalist, was having with Protagoras, who was a sophist. Protagoras believed that you couldn't teach excellence with a list of rules. You taught it through experience, through stories, through, well, intuition. For centuries, our culture basically said Socrates was right. We went all in on that explicit, rule-based knowledge. But now, in a crazy twist of fate, the very technology that came from that way of thinking, the computer, has evolved into something that's forcing us to rediscover the wisdom of Protagoras. And look, the point isn't that one is good and the other is bad. Not at all. As Dan Shipper puts it so well, it's about seeing that intuition and rationality are partners. In fact, intuition is kind of the original parent of rationality. All our logical thoughts have to start from some intuitive grasp of the world. You absolutely need both. So where does that leave us? The future isn't about choosing sides. It's not the logical computer versus the intuitive LLM. The real skill is learning how to use both, how to partner with both sides of intelligence. So the question I want to leave you with is this. In this new world, how are you going to become a better gardener for your ideas?